Uh, so we've got Paul and Kari. Paul and Kari, they work for STS-GIS Services, Department of Finance. And I've known Paul, I think probably since 2008, 2009, something like that. I haven't known Kari as long as that, but she's pretty awesome as well. Uh, Paul is a location intelligence analyst with STS GIS Services, helping us support various data programs. His primary focus is imagery, LiDAR, and special projects. So if you've dealt with any of those things through the state of Tennessee, you've probably heard his name before. He's been the past president for TNGIC. He's also the chair of the Web and Data Committee for TNGIC right now. Paul has been highly active in the state of Tennessee for GIS. He is always looking for ways to help people in any way to use GIS to help with their projects, to help answer questions and everything like that. Kari is also a location intelligence analyst, and she holds a master's degree in geoscience from MTSU. Kari supports also the imagery, LiDAR, and TREC projects, and is also committed to advancing the state's geospatial capabilities and contributing to the success of the STS-GIS division. So I'm going to turn over to them and they can start their presentation. And I hope you guys enjoy what you see. Thank you.
Thank you for the great introduction, Sean. So you gave us a great intro, so I don't have to really tell you, I guess, what we're here to talk about. But briefly, just to reiterate, I guess, is we're going to talk about web accessibility and mapping and how it affects, excuse me, mapping professionals in Tennessee. So we'll give you an overview of the web content, accessibility guidelines, some of the deadlines, and hopefully most helpful to you all as GIS professionals is some resources that you can kind of take home and some knowledge that you can take home and either remediate your applications or develop guidelines or move forward with accessibility in your organization. Next slide, Kari. Thank you. So here's a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. I'll give you a brief overview of our role as STS and kind of who we are if you missed that a little bit in the intro. I'll talk about an introduction to web accessibility or give you that and what the ADA is and what the WCAG is. As it's known, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines and how they affect maps and web content. Kari's going to discuss accessible map design techniques. So what, again, those tips and tricks that we've found and discussing with other states or organizations on, what are some helpful things to do. We'll talk about some strategies. So I know that everybody here, or most folks in Magic, if I can understand a little bit about y'all's organization, right? Very similar in TNGIC, that you have either local governments, Fed governments, or contractors, or you have lots of different moving pieces and lots of different organizations. Well, your implementation strategies are going to be different, but we'll go through a couple of things that we've done, and maybe hopefully they'll help you in your organization, whatever that organization is, develop a strategy. And then lastly, we'll cover some resources and tools. All right, so a brief STS role. So we're the state of Tennessee, Strategic Technology Solutions Group. We're under the Department of Finance and Administration. And we're in that state central IT. So we have a centralized IT organization that assists state agencies, provides support, IT solutions. We have everything from folks that manage the tn.gov website to networking, and all the way to us, to GIS and data services, right? Data analytics and things like that. So we're in the same group as like Tableau and Power BI, if you're familiar with those other software applications. So our particular role as far as STS GIS Services is concerned, if you haven't heard one of my presentations at a Magic conference, or other folks, Matt Lane is another one or Dennis who's on the call, is come out to Magic and talk to you guys about the work that we're doing on a statewide level. Well, we do coordination on statewide data programs. In the introduction, Sean mentioned the imagery and LiDAR. Those are two great examples. Hydrography is another one. So we help coordinate and pool funding for large-scale statewide collections. You've probably heard, the 3DEP and 3DHP are those LiDAR and hydrography programs that we participate in on a national level. We also do data sharing. So we have the geodata.tn.gov portal, which you can get to by going to tnmap.tn.gov. I'm sure many of you have been there. We also do application development. So we help host applications for state agencies and the services that help support them. So whether it's the property viewer for the comptroller of the Treasury or the sex offender registry for TBI, those are applications that we help our state agency partners. And part of that comes with this accessibility rules and things that are coming down the pipe. We need to be able to support our state agency partners, and in some cases, obviously, we're trying to spread the word and educate folks and spread the word. Next slide, Kari. Thank you. So now I'll give you an introduction to the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So I'm not going to read all through every single one of these bullets, but essentially the ADA prohibits that discrimination of folks with disabilities. And so then there are some guidelines and requirements and things in the ADA that affect our role as government agencies, or maybe contractors for government agencies, and providing services. Next slide. Thank you. So now, I guess, really to focus in on that rule that Sean was mentioning. So I'm thinking about the ADA and all of the guidelines and things that it has. Well, they came out with a ruling. The Justice Department came out with a ruling on 4/24 of 2024 that service and programs and activities offered by state and local government entities to the public through web and mobile applications have to be compliant. And that compliance is setting those regulations, right? And that compliance level is to a specific guideline. That guideline is the WCAG, or the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And there's specific levels, which I'll talk about in just a moment. I do want to put your focus on the table below. There is a timeline, and you may have heard this. There's a timeline for us as GIS professionals or IT professionals and state organizations and local organizations to make all of your web content compliant to that WCAG 2.1 AA by a specific date. And so if you are an entity size, so that could be a local government, a city government with fewer than 500,000 persons, it's 3 years after the publication for the final rule. That's when you have to have all of your content meet that WCAG 2.1 compliance. And so that's not this upcoming next year, that's 2026, it's actually 2027. Now for us, as being the state of Tennessee, we're in that 500,000 or more persons. And so it's 2 years after that publication date of the final rule. So we have a strategy, which I'll talk about later, to remediate any applications that need to be remediated and produce some guidelines and things like that for us to develop our future applications by April of next year. All right, so dive a little bit deeper into the WCAG. It was created by the W3C, which is the World Wide Web Consortium. Essentially, it's a gathering of stakeholders around the world to develop some guidelines for creating web content that is accessible. And so when you think about what kind of content, right? It could be anything. and we'll talk a little bit about this later, but it could be PDFs, websites, obviously, web maps, and a wide range of things. So what does the WCAG do? Well, it makes sure that we're developing, and the acronym is POUR, perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust applications or web content. And it has 3 different levels. So it has the single A, the double A, and the triple A. And again, if you recall from my previous slide that was highlighted, we need to be compliant with 2.1 double A. Next slide, please, Kari. All right. So, obviously there are some specific goals on, kind of the why on why we need to make all of this, all of our web content accessible. Well, obviously it's important because we want to make it inclusive for all, right? I think it's the statistic is like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 adults in the United States have some sort of disability, whether that's visual, motor, or cognitive impairments, could be color blindness. And obviously now with a lot of us are web developers, and we may not even really have thought about that before, but right, a lot of us are content creators. We are creating web maps and applications and putting that out there. So we want to make sure that it's accessible, make sure that it's inclusive. Last but not least, though, is accessibility is often overlooked with web maps and things like that, right? A map is almost inherently not accessible. It's hard to make accessible because it's not just a block of text that you can have, let's say, a screen reader, for instance, just read right through it. So it's extremely important, though, just as it's web content, and we need to be thinking about this. So what, I touched on this a little bit, but what does it include? Well, all web content. I mentioned websites, PDFs or documents, images, any public web maps, experiences, surveys, all of our web maps and applications that we have out there. All right, so now just want to give a couple of standard web examples. In the examples below, you'll see Wikipedia that was just put through one of the tools that you can use to check a website and its accessibility. So we just use Wikipedia as an example, but structure is extremely important in a web page or web content. And this doesn't have to necessarily be Wikipedia. You can think about a web map or one of your hub sites or whatever it might be. But screen readers need a specific structure to navigate that content. So if you look in the middle image, right, that's what Wikipedia looks like without its CSS or its styling applied. So a screen reader is going to read through all of these specific links, and it needs to be in a logical order. With titles and those headings and the descriptions all in the right way. Also, a key focus is keyboard navigation. So on the right-hand side, you'll see again, Wave is a tool that you can use to check a specific website. And you can see the little blue boxes, you can't see them, zoomed out this far, but each one of those is a number on the tab order. So, which is essentially the focus, right? You can go through a website. If you haven't navigated a website with your keyboard, you can do so, using the tab key and several other keys that will help make it accessible. So all very important. Another key is appearance, right? So fonts are important, whether a font is easily readable and legible. The size of the elements obviously will matter, and color and contrast. And these things are all checked, and there are guidelines in the WCAG that I was referencing before. Obviously, we've got a lot more information on that a little bit later in the presentation, but you can see in the example below, we gave this presentation, as Sean was saying, to TNGIC, and so we used just the TNGIC homepage as an example on kind of the most recent annual conference. There on the left-hand side, you'll see it in just its state that you would see it if you had no color blindness, or if you had Yeah, no color blindness. And then as we move to the right, there are different types of color blindness, tritantanopia and other examples that you can kind of see, how the web page looks. Well, to some folks, maybe the contrast needs to be a little bit more. It just depends. I think all of these did a great job of kind of popping through, but it's just something to keep in mind. And Kari's going to really dive into that as far as color and contrast go on map applications. Yeah, so take it away, Kari. She's gonna go through just some techniques, some tips and tricks, and
Thanks, Paul.
I'll get you in a bit.
Paul mentioned my name is Kari. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. As Shauna and Paul mentioned, my name is Kari Sadley, and today I'm going to be walking you through some map design techniques that I have used to improve usability on all of our public websites. I'm going to start out with the base map and layers. First, it is recommended to provide alternative text or descriptions for all layer names. Second, choose to include a base map widget for users so that they have a variety of base maps to choose from. Options like the enhanced contrast maps by Esri can help to improve visibility. The third recommendation is to use high contrast color schemes and incorporate patterns or distinct shapes where available. For example, for our Trek project, we have incorporated the base map widget so people can change up the base map to what suits them. And we also have some examples of poor contrast down here. The next aspect of accessible map design involves markers and symbols. To ensure clarity and usability, it is best to use a combination of distinct sizes, shapes, and colors to differentiate between symbols. Maintaining adequate contrast, both for symbols and accompanying text, is essential, as well as offering high contrast color schemes such as light and dark modes. Avoid using red or green combinations, as these can be problematic for users with color deficiencies. In addition, maps should not rely solely on color to convey meaning. Labels provide a crucial alternative. When choosing fonts, opt for a simple typeface over decorative ones, which can make the letters difficult to distinguish. For consistency and clarity, it is best to limit your design to 1 to 2 fonts per map, as too many can overwhelm the user. Next, when designing layers and legends, it is important to ensure all text elements are accessible via keyboard navigation and compatible with screen readers. Legends should be structured in a way that allows users to understand the meaning between the symbols to understand the symbols and their relationship. And additionally, users should be able to toggle the map layers on and off just using the keyboard controls and provide full functionality without requiring a mouse. The next technique is adding alternative text to all non-text images. Alternative text is accessed by screen readers for individuals with visual impairments. It is recommended to provide descriptive text for all non-text content, such as logos, charts, graphs, images, and icons to support screen reader functionality. For instance, I have the Tennessee logo here, and I've set it up for the alt text to show up as Tennessee organization logo when a screen reader goes over it. Next, the zoom, navigation, and map controls should be fully operable using just a keyboard with ARIA labels and visible focus indicators to support screen reader users and keyboard navigation. Avoid relying solely on mouse-based interactions, such as click and drag, to ensure all users can interact with your maps effectively. Additionally, map interfaces should support screen readers and navigation by maintaining a logical, meaningful focus order, avoiding map traps where users can get stuck between the controls, and offering alternative ways to access the map content, such as through data tables. Finally, responsive mobile design is essential to ensure all maps function effectively across all devices. Maps should adapt to smaller screens without obscuring critical content, and interactive elements such as buttons and controls should have large accessible touch targets. Additionally, it is important to test map usability with mobile-specific assisted technologies, including voice control tools. For accessibility testing, a combination of automated and manual approaches is recommended. Tools like Site Improve, Axe, Wave, NVDA, and VoiceOver can help identify issues. Manual testing should include tabbing through the interface to check through keyboard navigation and using a screen reader to explore map content, and zooming to 200% to ensure the map layout remains functional and readable. Those are some of the helpful tips and tricks that I've been able to make with our web applications. I'm going to turn it back over to Paul to discuss where STS is at and our strategy going forward. Take it away, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Kari, for rolling through those design techniques, and we'll be sure to provide the presentation to folks via PDF, so you can kind of zoom in and see some of those examples that Kari was showing. All right, so kind of wanted to discuss a little bit and share where we are as far as our remediation on some of our applications, as well as our state strategy. So we do have an overall state strategy. Again, we're in that state central IT, so there is a large IT project that has champions in each one of the state agencies, accessibility champions. And so there's this kind of structure, and there's a strategy behind that at the state level. And so again, as I mentioned before, is that everybody's organization here is different. You may be a contractor that's providing map applications and information to a local government, or you may be, with local government yourself. So this is going to be a little bit different, but I'm sure, in talking with folks in the GIS profession at various levels, that, these efforts are ongoing in organizations now as we speak. So we do have a team TN, that's what we call it. It's our internal state website. And we are providing a list of resources and things to help our GIS users develop and remediate those applications. So again, I mentioned, one of our roles is to develop applications. So we have some of that work to do ourselves, but also state agencies have their own GIS staff. And so those GIS staff are going through the same thing, right? They're going to be having to remediate and kind of come up with a way to move forward with making their applications accessible. Kari's done amazing work on our applications and remediating the ones that we work on together. But another thing that she's done is build some experience builder templates. And we got this idea from the state of Minnesota. They have a very mature program, but we've built some state of Tennessee experience builder, which if you're not an Esri user, we're an Esri shop. So that's an ArcGIS product, an application builder. And so what that allows a state agency user now to do is pull down that particular template. A lot of the things are already kind of preset, whether it's a TN logo or something like that, or being able to have a table pop up. And so Kari's done a great job at building some of these templates. So it may be something that you want to do in your organization, depending on how large it is, or it may help you if you're just a one-man shop too. All right, so as far as the strategy is concerned, I've already talked a little bit about this, but it may already be an ongoing effort. Each organization is different. Internally, we're going through an evaluation of our content. So again, we're an Esri shop, so a lot of our ArcGIS Online information we're able to kind of sort through, filter through, and see what's public, what needs to be remediated. And that's actually a really good thing, because it enables you to kind of root through and get rid of the stuff you may not actually need. What we're providing also is some resources and training. I mentioned that Team TN website that you see there on the right. So we're coming up with some training internally to be able to provide that to our staff, as well as resources for our state agency partners. And then obviously remediation, right? We have to have a strategy, a specific maybe tracking. Again, this depends on your organization size. We have folks that have upwards of 200 public web maps and items that will need to be remediated. So it's all going to vary depending on your organization. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as far as I guess addressing the biggest hurdles, which I think is important to note, right? You want to when trying to tackle this, and when we first started hearing about this rule coming down, it may be overwhelming for you if this is the first you've heard about it and you have a lot of public content. But really, again, a strategy to move forward is just addressing those biggest hurdles, whether it's house cleaning and narrowing your scope. So I mentioned, if you have 200 ArcGIS Online items and half of them don't need to be shared anymore, those, we all do it. The Paul map, try 1, Paul map, try 2, all those kinds of things. You can really kind of clean up what you actually need to remediate. So that really helps with prioritization, right? Is the big thing to think about is the core service functioning and available? Does adding, as Kari mentioned, one of those tips, adding a table to a web map help make the data accessible to someone with a disability? So that's something really important to remember. Just, is that core service still functioning and is it available? Tab order is another big one and kind of a one to focus on. We've talked about that, both Kari and I, and kind of moving through an application or a web page. Contrast is another one. Kari gave some great examples on that. And these screen readers and checkers and things like that will help you identify areas that need to be changed. A screen reader going through, and I actually haven't done it yet. I know Kari and Matt have, is get a screen reader on your machine. NVDA is one of those, and I'll talk about some of those other tools. But then go through your applications and your web pages and have it read to you, but be prepared. It can be a lot. Next. All right, so here's some of the tools and things that at the state of Tennessee we've identified as helpful tools for making everything compliant. One of the first thing though is that you may have some organizational assistance, right? I mentioned that at the state, our overall IT project, there's IT assistants, right? They have training and things that they've identified that they're passing down to folks in GIS, as well as, let's say, that Tableau or Power BI, because we're all, in the same boat if we've got public content. Here are some of those tools that I mentioned. So Wave, and that's a browser extension, and it's state approved. Your organization may have a specific tool. We have also Site Improve. That's their state standard, and that's for our tn.gov sites. So we have a specific license, but you can also get a free browser extension for Site Improve as well. Axe is another browser extension. And then as far as screen readers go, NVDA and VoiceOver are two that we've used in the state. In addition, there's some colorblind friendly palettes on the right-hand side. You can see if you're an Esri user, Esri has a lot of different color palettes that enable you to kind of turn off and turn on colorblind friendly modes, which can be very helpful. I think specifically in the ArcGIS Online map editor, there is a way to see which color friendly palettes you have. In addition, Esri has an ArcGIS Pro tool that will enable you to change your map and look at it in different colorblind modes, which is, again, also can be very useful in helping you assess your web applications and web maps. Again, we're an Esri shop, so Esri does have training and information that we've used and found helpful, and we'll provide links to that momentarily. So I just wanted to give an example of the Wave tool, and I ran it on the Magic homepage, and it actually had 0 WCAG errors, but it did have 15 contrast errors. So maybe, you know, again, there's maybe something that to look at as far as whether it's making a background image maybe a little darker or something like that. But and that's just for accessibility. There aren't any WCAG errors. I just wanted to show an example of what Wave looks like when you run it on a specific website. So you can click on those specific errors and kind of drive to them, see where they are, and then go about remediating your website or your web application. All right, and then I did put this slide on just to make sure that everybody just remembers, right, is these are kind of two of the keys. The dates, right, those deadlines that we all have to meet for any of our public-facing web content. It's either this upcoming next year for that 500,000 or more persons, or 2027 for fewer than that. And that'd be for, again, state and local governments, and then for those contractors supporting those entities as well. And then here are some helpful links. Again, I've got a PDF that I can share with Sean or Rob or whoever needs to distribute that. I think we may already have that on the Tinjik side, but I've updated a couple things in the PowerPoint, so I'll be sure to send that. But in going through these links, because I think it's important, we've mentioned a lot of information and pointed and hinted at specific things, but it's really going to take, you know, some time on your side to do a little bit of research and training and kind of digging to find more information. But we have the federal links to the federal requirement and the WCAG 2.1, which can get very overwhelming. Esri's documentation is really good. They've come up with a 3-part training series. So whether it's introductions to digital accessibility in GIS or applying accessibility in app builders, it's a lot of helpful tips and tricks. In addition, if you're an ArcGIS Hub user, which we are, they have some specific guidelines and some kind of helpful tips and things like that. In addition, they have ways to make your PDFs more accessible when you're exporting from ArcGIS Pro or using any of the document and print widgets and things like that. I mentioned the Esri color ramps, so the colorblind friendly ramps, we've got a link to that, as well as some of those base map considerations. And then Color Brewer, which is also another very helpful website that can provide information on colorblind ramps and contrast and things like that. A couple of other states that have really mature programs and ones that we've been working with and learning from and joining meetings so that we can pass things like this on to you all is Colorado. Now they do have specific state laws that are regulating their accessibility. Minnesota does not, but they also have a fantastic set of guidelines, and they have a really mature program. So I highly encourage you to kind of check those out. The Colorado one is great. It's and it's an experience builder. I think, you know, it just kind of walks you through a bunch of different examples and things. Actually, some of Kari's examples you may have seen. The script one is Pikes Peak. So we were able to kind of borrow some of their great examples from Colorado. And that's all we've got. So happy to answer any questions. I know I saw one pop up in the chat. Can we go see some experience builder examples that that have been built? Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, I can Kari, you're showing if you want to pull up maybe one of your templates and or perhaps one of our applications that you've remediated. You're on mute, Kari.
As it's the case. Thank you. All right. Let's see. So the templates, all right, so some of the templates that I've created, one features a table and the other is without, but we've got some widget controllers that can be changed up as this one contains the table as well as links out to the accessibility and web policies. So in this idea, someone could take this from whatever organization and they would just be able to shift up their information from this.
But as you were hovering over those widgets, right, you already had the alt text and things like that already put on, so that a user, when they do download this or use this template for their application, a lot of those things are kind of already preset.
And to get to this, you would go to ArcGIS online and go to the templates and then type in TN experience, and it should be one of the first things that pops up there.
So I have a question.
Good thing.
When you guys build the sites, when everything is completed, you may have mentioned this, but do you have a program or tool or mechanism that kind of checks your work and gives you ideas for improvements? Do you have something like that?
I prefer to use Site Improve myself. That's one of my
Site
favorite ones
Improve?
that I
Okay.
use. I use that and Wave a pretty good amount.
So those are the two that you recommended in that slide. Okay. Are those free?
They are.
Yes. Yeah, those are both browser extensions. And I think you could get a Site Improve license if you wanted to. That would, it depends. Again, we have an enterprise license for our tn.gov sites because there are so many different sites to check. So it provides like dashboards on the overall site and things like that. Which if we only had one or two, let's say hub sites or something like that, a browser extension would work just fine. Internally too, that kind of may help answer a little bit more of your question in depth, Sean, is that we've tried to develop, and we're still kind of honing that, is a checklist for when you develop a new application or when you go and remediate an application. Here are kind of the steps to kind of go through. So again, making sure you're checking tab order, make sure you're checking contrast, running Site Improve until it's clean, those kinds of things. So we're developing that, like I said, in-house, and we'll be sharing that probably with our state agency partners.
Very good. Are there any questions or comments for Paul and Kari? So I noticed that somebody posted the link to the PDF. Is that the most updated one? Who did that?
I did that.
Okay.
That was the one that y'all sent me when we first set this up.
Yep. Yeah, that PDF, the only thing that really, like, I put in one slide with the reminder on the dates. And then since we have given this presentation to Chinjik, there is an extra training that Esri has published. That's the only change. Let's see if I can pull it up.
Anybody have anything else? Well, if there's nothing else, I appreciate everybody's time here this afternoon, and thank you, Paul and Kari, for taking your time and giving us this presentation. It's just as good as the first time I saw it, so keep doing the good work.
Appreciate it.
Maybe a tad better since Matt's not here, but don't tell him that.
We're passing that along.
Yeah.
I did have one question.
Oh, you do? Okay, Alan, what you got?
say our city of Jackson, our website, this or that, they're gonna need to be, make sure that they're under the 2.1 AA as well, correct? This is for all.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that is correct. That is for all web content, right? What I was talking about is documents, PDFs, web maps, whatever is shared to the public. That's excuse me, that's going to have to meet the WCAG guidelines.
I'll talk to our IT guys and see if they're aware of that, so. Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hope this wasn't, I don't know if that was a surprise for many folks, but I assume people are at varying levels of remediation from what I've talked to in other circles. Sounds like it's pretty similar with Magic.
Yeah, for at least for Tipton County government, I mentioned that we were redoing our website anyway, but in order to meet those guidelines, I've just finished with the design. But I can tell you when I'm going to move content over from the old site to the new site, I'm going to try to minimize some things. And special. Do you mention something about fillable PDFs? Are those still okay to a certain point?
I don't know. There are probably some Adobe. I know there are some Adobe standards in that link. I'm not sure if those are covered in that.
Yeah.
I don't have any fillable PDFs that we have shared out there. We just have unfillable. I don't know, a regular.
Yeah.
PDF.
Well, data and mapping applications.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm going to have to minimize. They say that you can have fillable PDFs, but they have to be in compliance with the Adobe software, like you
Yeah.
said, some extensions, whatever, that you can publish those and they would be okay. But like I said, I'm going to try to put as much content as I can from a PDF onto the website, and hopefully that works.
It helps you keep things simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does. Yeah, and somebody brought up a good point here. This is being recorded and it will be shared to the Magic website. So make sure you check that out. It'll probably be done maybe this afternoon, but I would check back either tomorrow or Friday.
Also put my my email in the chat. You're always welcome to reach out, and if I can't answer it for you, I will try to hunt down the answer for you, or put you in contact with somebody that might know.
Okay.
And
Very nice.
I'll share the updated PDF, Rob, with you and with you, Sean, as well.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you again for your time. Great work. Excellent job again. And we'll see you later.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Guys.
you.
All right,
Have a good
guys.
one, everyone.
Bye.